Hey everybody, how we doing today? Beautiful, beautiful day here in the Florida Keys. Another flat, calm days. All right, I saw one in that dark patch over there somewhere. Oh, there he is. Oh, there's a school of them coming right in front of me. Whole big school of them. Oh, that's right on him. Right on him. Oh, he's got it. Oh, did he miss it? They're trying for it. They're messing with it. Oh my gosh, did they steal it? Oh, they were bumping it. Well, these storm clouds came rolling in and starting to rain. So I think I'm gonna call it. Damn. So I think I'm gonna call it not so nasty because we don't have like the funnel clouds kind of set up. So might just dump some rain, a little bit of wind, but we'll make the run back and call it a day. Oh no, not again! I got the perfect storm. That's covering actually Key West right there. And I got this guy now dumping, which wasn't dumping before. So I can't see Key West, but so far I can see where I'm going right there to Mount Trashmore. No worries this time, because I got my compass. So we're all good. And my push pole has the handle facing the right way. So I think we're gonna be all good today. I just have a little window. It's closing from both sides. Oh my gosh. Beautiful behind me. Not so good on either side of me. Just gotta make it forward. Oh crap, here it comes. Well, kinda wide out. This is what I'm doing. North is always north. So I'm keeping that green part a little bit to my left. And that way I know that the kayak is going in the right direction. Okay, let's talk Florida Keys summer storms. On the list of things that'll kill me, it ranks number 3. Number 1 being hit on my motorcycle down here. 2 would be getting hit on my bicycle down here. And 3 would be getting whacked by these summer storms while I'm making one of these long runs on my kayak. It's a phenomenon. It happens every year, summertime. Get this heat, humidity, influx of the winds and currents from the mainland, and it just creates these real volatile storms. And they're just like magnets. They just follow, just like a tourist coming from Miami. They just magnetize right along that mainland, right down the Keys. And they vary a little bit to the north, a little bit to the south, depending on the way the wind is blowing. But they just make that run straight down. Very unpredictable, but you got to be very, very, very careful. As you've seen before in a lot of my videos, I get whacked by those things all the time. And for those people that haven't been whacked by them before, it can be very daunting. So today's video is just going to be kind of a little helpful hints, kind of get you prepared. You're coming down to the Keys, or basically if you're in a storm volatile area, the tips will probably help as well. More geared towards the kayaks, but probably very beneficial towards small crafts as well, because you don't have that much more stability than my kayak does, so got to be careful. But we'll talk through a few things. I'll show you a few things, and hopefully it'll help you keep you a little better prepared. Now, pretty much every fishing trip starts by researching wind finder. Unfortunately, in regards to these summer storms, they don't have the ability to track it. They can give you general storm fronts pushing through, as well as the wind and cloud cover and even some rain. But these really volatile storms, because they are really micro storms, don't really show up on wind finder, even if you go to the super forecast, which is by the hourlies. During the summertime, one of the tools that I like to utilize is the weather radar or weather satellite versions. In this case, weather.com. It'll give you basically an overview of one at the moment when you check it to show you what the cloud cover looks like. But there's also an app that you could replay what had happened prior to that time frame, so you can kind of get a gist of what the cloud movements have been and which direction they were going. Also, you could do as a future version, and it'll tell you what it's going to be like on the hour for the rest of the day, and that'll help you to determine what direction those clouds are going and if you need to keep an eye out for some specific storms that'll be showing up. Alrighty, we are now out here in Shark Channel. Bit of a gloomy, overcast day, but since we're talking about stormy conditions and how to deal with them, I think it works out pretty good. I'm kind of tucked in here in this little cove here. It's protecting from the wind that's blowing over and around. But we're gonna go over some things to do, things not to do, what to look for, and just kind of get on the water experience. So if things come up, you'll have an idea of what you should do. One of my earliest recollections of dealing with storms out here was actually right here. I'd just been out fishing. I was coming back, saw a big storm coming in, was going to head back to the dock. I was following a couple. We got it out about to the corner there, and then the storm just hammered us. It just boom. Winds went up to about 30 plus knots. The rain was just dropping, and then it started going sideways, then white capping, and it got really rough all of a sudden. They kind of panicked and just thought, oh, we got to get back to the launch, which is only a couple hundred yards away where those roofs are there. But they made it just through this little opening here about halfway, and that wind was just getting funneled through there, knocked the girl over, lost her stuff, but luckily it was only like a foot deep, so she just stood up, held on to the kayak. Boyfriend wasn't knowing what to do, so he jumped out of his kayak as well, and they just stood in the middle of that thing while that rain and wind was just blowing, it was white capping. I'm sure it was scary, but realistically they were in a foot of water, so it wasn't too bad. I ended up just tucking back in those mangroves and just let that wind blow over, rain blew over, just kind of like here, and waited it out, and 5-10 minutes later it was over. It was flat calm again. They got back, collected their stuff, went back to the dock, and I went back fishing because that's the kind of way it is. But sometimes it's just better to maybe find a place to just wait it out than it is to risk it by trying to make that run back and getting caught in the middle of it. Especially these mangroves are super thick. Wind doesn't get through them. They're almost like a solid wall there. It blows right over the top, just get tucked right underneath there. Protects you from the wind, also most of the rain, and then just wait it out. Most of these storms, like I said, 15-20 minutes at most, and then you can get on with life. So just gotta think about what you're doing and not panic. Alrighty, we are out here in Hawks Channel, which basically runs from the islands, flats, and then it drops off into kind of a channel, and then it goes out, and then it comes back up when the patch reefs and the reefs start picking up. So it's kind of just a trough that runs parallel with the Keys. So we're out in the middle of that, and behind me, as you can kind of see, is the Keys. So we've got Key West all the way down there, Shark Channel directly behind me, and then if you keep following the Keys along that way for 90 miles, then you get to Key Largo and up towards Miami. So this will give us a good starting point where we can kind of see what's going on, and then I'll go through a few tips with you as well. Weather-wise, as the radar showed, it's pretty much all clear out here. There's no cloud systems that are threatening, and it doesn't look like there's going to be coming in the afternoon, so it's fairly clean. We've got overcast skies, but what it looks like is there's a pressure system keeping the normal clouds in line and out of this area. So great for being out and about, not so great when you're filming a storm video, but it makes it a little bit easier for me to explain things. So the buildup of a normal Florida Keys summer storm consists of different components. Like we've got the Gulf of Mexico, we've got the Atlantic Oceans, and then varying depths is different temperatures. So you have all this volatility just in the temperatures off of the water here. Then you add the Florida Keys, which is basically the corridor from Key West, 100 miles up to Miami. And you have those different temperatures that are absorbing the heat from the sun. You've got all that pavement, you've got the dirt, you've got the mangroves, okay? And then you have the added water component that basically creates that humidity off of that heat exchange. Then on top of that, you've got the normal climate around us. And then you have those forces coming from the mainland, those storms and winds that pull winds and different temps off the mainland that mix with us, and it creates a lot of volatility. And that's basically what our summer storms consist of. Now today there's not very much going on. It's just basically some overcast skies. The only thing closest that we have that's similar to these storm clouds that we normally get would be that system over there. And that's probably sitting above Miami or down towards Miami there. But normally that's the kind of storm cells that we would normally see coming right along US 1. It's just a grouping of some lower clouds, but then you have those cumulus clouds above them, and it's just storing and it's just building a lot of energy, and it's dumping big amounts of rain, and that's caused a lot of wind and then a lot of electronics as well. So that's the ones that we're looking for. But at the moment, the Keys are clear, so not too worried about it. All right, so now you know what the clouds look like. You kind of know the situation. Now you got to make a determination of what you're going to do. The problem is that these clouds are going to be like this all summer long, every single day. And you can't just say, oh, there's a storm cell, we got to head back in. Because what will happen is you'll never get out. You just won't ever be able to do anything because they're here every single day of the summertime. But what you have to do is you got to mix in some common sense and then kind of factor in things like, what route is that storm cell coming? How big is it? How fast is it moving? How long is it going to take me to get from where I'm at to either the safety of the launch where I launch from, or at least get back to the safety of the mainland where I could take cover rather than be out here and exposed. So those are the calculations that you have to kind of make on the fly, and just depending on your security level of how confident you feel if you get caught in these storms. Now, I can't make those determining factors, so those are just, they're all variables and it's always changing. So there's really not a concrete answer. You just kind of have to figure it out and be fluid about it. But while I'm out here, what I can do is go over some how-tos should you get caught in those storms. Number one is don't panic, okay? You gotta make good decisions. And a lot of times you'll see a storm coming through, and then you might have waited because the bite's good, or you're not paying attention, you don't notice it, or it moved a lot faster, and then it's like, oh my gosh, I got to make a decision now, I don't know if I'm going to make it back. And then you just start going back towards the launch. Even though you start seeing the storm, it's going right towards the launch as well, and you're running right into the storm. When you're offshore and you're 5 miles out and you see a storm coming right towards the Keys there, and that's the direction you want to get back to safety, sometimes it's better to sit back and just bite your nails and just kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm just way exposed out here. But it's better than going right into that storm. Same with if you're in the Keys and you're just around some mangroves, maybe it's better to just tuck into the mangroves, let that storm come right over you rather than get caught out in the open. And remember, these storms, they last 5, 10, 20, maybe half an hour, then they blow through and it's calm again, okay? So you really need to make decisions that don't put you into a worse condition. Number 2, stay in control. And that means the control of your vessel or your kayak. And what that means is getting that bow pointed into the wind and the waves as soon as possible and keeping it that way, okay? So wind's blowing this way, whatever I have to do to get that nose pointed into the wind. What happens is if you don't get that nose into the wind and maintain that into the wind, you're gonna lose the battle and you're gonna get turned sideways, and that force of the current, the waves, the wind, and your instability of being sideways, you're gonna end up flipped, and that's the worst case scenario. So what you're gonna be doing is It's wide out, rain's busting down. You can't see where you're at, but you know which way the wind and those waves are coming at you. Get that nose pointed toward that direction so that at least you're stable, and put all your effort in keeping that nose into those waves, okay? Because you get off it at all, it'll grab that nose and it'll spin you around. And once you're spun around, even if you stay upright, you'll never get that nose back again. So put all your effort towards that. Give up on the idea of making it back to the launch. Put all your effort into just staying in control by keeping that nose pointed towards into the wind and the waves. Another tip, if you're in whiteout conditions, or for instance, if you go offshore where you're out of sight of land, how do you know how to get back if you don't have your electronics? All right, I bring just a general old compass here, and I use that to figure out how to get home. So before, like, I see some clouds coming, I know I'm gonna get hit by a storm. Let's say I know my launch spot is at the end of the landmass there, that point. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll point my kayak right, so I'm going right at it. Okay, then I'll take my variable marker that I could alter, which is the north on this compass. I'll have it lined up straight along with the nose of the kayak, so everything's going in line, and then I'll turn that marker so that's in line as well. Okay, then what I'll do is, oops, off here, I want to get totally centered there, and then I'll take how much angle I've got between the north arrow and my marker there. So right at about 10 o'clock I need that north arrow to be pointing at. So even though, let's say I'm way off course, I'm blind, can't see anything, I look down, I know this north arrow has to be facing at about 10 o'clock, so I need to swing back around, get that arrow to right about 10 o'clock, and then when I look back up, I'm basically in line with where I want to go. Okay, so right at about 10 o'clock gets me in the direction that I need to be. So regardless of what you've got, just make sure you ahead of time that you know that you could turn off the lights and you could still find your way back home. All right, worst case scenario, you're going over. All right, a rogue wave hits you in the wrong area, you get turned sideways and you finally lose your balance, you get flipped over. There's only two things you should be thinking about. And no, it's not, oh, I'm never going to see my friends or family again, or oh my gosh, my cell phone's going to get wet, or oh, I'm going to lose all my fishing tackle and my poles. Oh, none of that. Those go out the window. Only two things you're thinking about is, one, getting a handhold of your kayak. All right, I've mentioned this before in the past about a kayak sits on top of the water and it has virtually no drag. I've taken a Q-tip and I could push my kayak and it'll take off. Wind will take these things like nothing, especially when there's no weight on top of them. Okay, so if you go overboard and your first thing is to not grab that kayak will be 100 yards away before your head becomes up and you can look around and it's gone. Then you are in serious trouble because now you're in the middle of the ocean with nothing. All right, so as you're going over, only thing you're thinking about is where's a grab hold of how I can get that handle on my kayak, the seat, a post, the rod holder, something, okay, that you can grab hold to and not let go until you can get back above water. Okay, and the second thing that you want to make sure you're holding on to, and hopefully you're using this to kind of keep yourself centered, but is your paddle. Okay, so if you lose your motor, you lose your pedals, you lose your paddle, you may have your kayak, but if you have no way of means of propulsion, okay, unless that wind is being super nice to you and blowing you back to land, that means it's blowing you out to sea, and that becomes a big problem. So going over, one, grab hold of that kayak. Two, grab hold of your paddle. All right, you're in the water. All right, things did not go well, but the first thing you got to do is not panic. All right, don't just start scrambling and trying to burn up all your energy trying to get back in, because it's virtually impossible to get back in on a kayak when it's blowing 30-40 knots with winds and the waves and everything's just unstable, then you try to jump on top of your kayak and it'll throw you over or throw you back, and then once you get on top, it'll just knock you off because it's really almost impossible to get stable enough with those conditions. So sometimes it's better just to kind of ride it out, knowing that in 15 minutes, 20 minutes, it'll be over. Just hold on to the kayak, hold on to your paddle, and wait it out until things become a little bit more stable. So the biggest thing, don't panic. Just remember, if you are going to try to do a re-entry, that you have to be on the right side of the kayak in order to do it, meaning that with the wind, it's going to push the kayak a lot faster than it'll push you. So you can't be on the opposite side of the wind of the kayak because it'll just push your body underneath the kayak and you'll never get enough lift. So what you'll have to either do is to spin the whole kayak around or swim underneath the kayak and come on the other side. So you're on the downward side of the kayak and it's basically dragging you along. And you'll find out it's a lot easier because that drag is going to lift the back of your body up and your feet up so that they're almost sitting on the surface. Then you just need to slide right into the cockpit there. But again, only if you feel that it's comfortable and stable enough to do so. Otherwise, don't waste the energy, just ride it out, just like you're just having a nice swim. Look at that storm trying to sneak up on us. That's ones we gotta watch out for. Let's try to get inside this kayak. And we're back on top. All right, there's some basic tips for you to just kind of help you kind of think things through. The most important tip I can give is to kind of, like I said, is think things through so you have a game plan should something like this happen. You're out and about, you get caught in a storm, here's the best options, and know them ahead of time so that you don't go to instant panic mode, make bad decisions, and get into real trouble. So think it through, even though you're not on the water. Maybe you're coming to visit next month, but just remember, these storms happen all the time, and I keep watching this one sneaking up on us. And just know they happen, and just have a game plan in place that if this happens, this is what I'm gonna do. So when it does happen, it's not that big a deal. So anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next video. Bye. All right, so that's the one that's been sneaking up on us. It's coming right along those keys like it started up towards Miami, and it's just working its way down US 1. It's got that cumulus clouds where it's building all the way up, a lot of energy. And then you can see where it's widening out all the way down to the ocean, all the way to the bottom. It's not like these where they're just sitting up top. It's almost connected down. So that's rain that's going just barreling down. And that's what's going to cause those wideouts. So we got to keep an eye on that, dude.